if y'all had to guess how long you think it's going to take Donald Trump to get tossed in a jail cell based on his behavior thus far, time you've known him, how long would you think? Do you think he's going to be in a jail cell by New Year's, Christmas, Thanksgiving, next Tuesday? I would accept all of those as reasonable guesses, given the way this guy handles himself. Here's Midas Touch. Haven't had them on in a while. Doing what they're good at. Giving a breakdown of the current legal situation with Donald John Trump and gag orders.
This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. The Department of Justice believes that Donald Trump is now a menace to society and wants the judge in D.C., Judge Chutkan, to not only reimpose her gag order that she temporarily stayed and lifted for about a week to give Donald Trump time to appeal, but wants Judge Chutkan to also change the very conditions of Donald Trump's release so that if he makes one more menacing comment, one more targeted violent rhetoric against a witness or potential witness in the case, she can revoke his conditions of release and put him in jail. That's how seriously the Department of Justice, in a filing tonight, 32 pages, in the D.C. election interference case, is taking Donald Trump's conduct. In fact,
stand by. So just for clarity, the gist of what Popok is addressing here is the Department of Justice using legal terminology to say this nonsense with fines isn't accomplishing what it's supposed to accomplish. And we finally, U.S. justice system, we finally have to address the fact that Donald Trump is a threat to other human beings. And we just checked. We blew off the dust on the book that explains our responsibilities, and apparently the safety of the people of the United States is the responsibility of the DOJ long term.
This filing is right up to the minute. The Department of Justice and Molly Gaston, the lawyer for the Department of Justice, signing the brief, she cites things as recently as today. An event in New York in which Donald Trump once again violated a gag order in New York, was fined $10,000 and found to be somebody not credible and lying under oath to a state court judge in the New York civil fraud case. That was cited in tonight's filing by the Department of Justice. Donald Trump's attacks on
specifically, Judge Trump was in that case with Michael Cohen testifying, and Trump had already gotten in trouble for harassing the law clerk, the staff of the court where his case was being seen. Pause real quick. If you have anybody that has the misfortune of coming across your path and saying that they think it's rigged against Trump, point out how wise you think it would be to harass the staff of the judge who is going to levy a judgment against you, or level a judgment against you at the end of this thing. How wise do you think that is? Is that a bad idea to piss off the judge? Okay, not exactly rigged against him if he plays the game badly, is it? But what this is in reference to is that incident wherein Trump finally had to testify. The judge pulled him into court after he badmouthed either the witness or the court staff after he was told not to attack the witness, says, or the court staff. He had Trump testify to get on the record who it was he was attacking. Not whether he was attacking these people, but who specifically was he referencing. Trump picked Cohen. Trump said, I was attacking the witness, not the court staff. The judge said, all right, your testimony has been taken down. I don't believe you. It's worth pointing out that Trump was not that direct. Trump was his normal rambling self. Trump, in other words, acted like you and I hear him act constantly. And the Trump, after hearing his diarrhea of the mouth, said, you are not a credible witness. You're not a credible person. I've heard what you say. I believe you were lying. I'm making a judgment. That's what he's referring to. Trump doesn't even have to testify yet. Shouldn't have even had to. He's so dumb. He's got himself under oath already in court with a judge saying, I think you just lied to the court. He's screwed. Let's just get to the meat of this thing.
On Mark Meadows, based on reporting just yesterday that Mark Meadows is cooperating with the federal prosecutors, gave 3 interviews and testified to the grand jury before Donald Trump was indicted, was met with scathing attacks and violent attacks on Mark Meadows. That's cited in the brief. In addition, the reporting that just came out of 60 Minutes Australia, in which a billionaire in Australia, Anthony Pratt, was secretly recorded, and we have those audio clips. We played them on Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network, in which he, a close confidant of Donald Trump's, who had paid millions and millions of dollars to curry favor with Donald Trump when he was alone, said that he was afraid of Donald Trump, that Donald Trump is a mobster and uses organized crime type techniques. That's cited in tonight's brief. So things that happened hours ago, a day ago, 3 days ago, ended up in real time in the briefing. The briefing is so important that I'm actually going to read from excerpts of it, and I'm going to do it a little bit backwards. I'm going to start at the end and work to the front. I'm going to start at the part that's sort of buried in the story if you give up after the first few pages of the brief, but is probably the most important aspect of the filing by the government to reimpose the gag order. They want
I do want to hear what he, oh, poor Popok. I do want to hear Popok's reading of this. There's a definite, there's something to be appreciated with somebody that has formal training in this sort of thing, reading it. So, all right, let's get an even better understanding. But if you want to read it yourself, the link is in the description.
The actual very conditions of his release on bond by the judge to be changed to prevent him from attacking Donald Trump, from attacking witnesses in the future. Let me read from page 30 of the actual brief. The court should immediately lift the administrative stay and modify the defendant's conditions of release. That means they don't just want the gag order back. They want more. They want more based on what Donald Trump did since just a week ago when the gag order was lifted through till today. Based on his own conduct, they think it warrants stronger conditions that could lead to Donald Trump being put in jail. Here's what they say in their brief, and I quote, "The defendant's continued targeting of witnesses and repeated violations of a similar order in New York during the brief interval while the order has been administratively stayed, describing October 20th, 2023 post, not only illustrate the risks of suspending the court's appropriate order, they demonstrate why the court should lift the stay and modify the defendant's conditions of release to protect witnesses from his attacks. Yesterday, within hours of a news report about the purported testimony in this case of the defendant's former chief of staff, that's Mark Meadows, the defendant issued multiple prejudicial and threatening Truth Social posts to influence and intimidate the chief of staff and comment publicly on the subject of his testimony."
You know, we could pull up that whole Truth Social post. Good. Do I have it here? Do I have it ready? That's the one Here we go. Let me just read it. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I am going to read it. That's one where he said, I don't think Mark, he said this, when did he say? October 24th. Lord, 2 days. I don't think Mark Meadows would lie about the rigged and stolen 20... All right, I got to do it in the dumb voice. The rigged and stolen 2020 presidential election merely for getting immunity against persecution by deranged prosecutor Jack Smith. But when you really think about it, after being hounded like a dog for 3 years, told you'll be going to jail for the rest of your life, your money and your family will be forever gone, and we're not at all interested in exposing those that did the rigging. If you say bad things, this is all one sentence. Yeah, it's that, where 2 days ago, he ranted and raved about Mark Meadows as soon as he had the opportunity. When we say this guy is going to bury himself, when we say that Trump is his own worst enemy, when folks are up here or in front of whatever device they have for recording discussion, this is what they're talking about. The guy's too dumb to be a client of anybody. He's too dumb to make it through court. He is creating problems for himself that the corrupt system he exists in is desperate for him not to have. Look at how badly these judges don't want to do their jobs when it comes to Donald Trump. Look at how desperate they are to treat him nice. They're looking for any possible opportunity to let him go, and he just won't give it to them. He's that dumb. I look forward to the Republicans whining about this trial. I look forward to your stories of Republicans whining to you about this trial or any of the other trials that he's in, because you will be able to point out the many, many dumbass things he did that brought all this upon himself. He could be found innocent of everything that he was brought in there for, and he may still wind up in jail simply because he's too much of a child to be in court. He could get himself tossed in jail just by being an asshole.
The defendant's targeting included insinuating that if the reporting were true, the chief of staff had lied and had been coerced, and the defendant sent a clear public message to the chief of staff, Trump to Meadows, intended to intimidate him. Quote, some people would make that deal to testify upon immunity, but they are weaklings and cowards and so bad for the future of our failing nation. I don't think the chief of staff is one of them, but who really knows? Just as the defendant took advantage of the court's suspension of its order prohibiting certain extrajudicial statements to publicly release evidence and prejudice the jury, the defendant here has capitalized on the court's administrative stay to, among other prejudicial conduct, send an unmistakable and threatening message to a foreseeable witness in this case. Unless the court lifts the administrative stay, the defendant will not stop his harmful and prejudicial attacks. In addition, to the extent the defendant's public message directed to the chief of staff with knowledge that it would reach him is not already covered by his release conditions, it is an intentional end run around them. Accordingly, this is on page 31 of the brief, the court should modify the defendant's conditions of release by making compliance with the order a condition, or by clarifying that existing condition barring communication with witnesses about the facts of the case. The case includes indirect messages to witnesses made publicly on social media or in speeches, citing a provision of the code that allows the court to jail Donald Trump if he violates those conditions of release related to witnesses. The brief goes on.
Is it not maddening that was not already in these briefs? You know, I didn't catch it. And I don't recall complaining about it when the gag orders were first put on. I was just shocked and delighted that any action at all was being taken. But I'm not a lawyer. I am not a judge. Most of you are not lawyers or judges. Some of you are. Hello, counselor. That's the case. It is their job to know these things. It is their job to prepare for these things, and it is especially a judge's job to know what they are going to do if and when their orders are violated, and to actually do it. The world will be shocked by how little uproar there is when Trump finally goes to prison. His Secret Service just saw this guy in court. His Secret Service just had to get up and run out of a courtroom with him when he had a tantrum and stormed out of the courtroom. His Secret Service, who we have reason to suspect, are diehard Trumpers. They are going to be some of the first people to turn against him, because they are people who have, as a necessity of their job, they have to have a knowledge of what's happening. I don't mean incarceration arrangements. I mean they have to physically be there at the court. That's their job. Physically be there to protect him. They're not wearing earplugs. They are going to see the gross details of this case. I'm interested to hear what they have to say about it. Thank you, Michael Popak. Why not? Let's give you a chance to finish the sentence.
To talk about what the court had already concluded at the end of its original hearing just a week ago, that Donald Trump can't say anything and get away with it. I mean, we know that in her questioning of the lawyer for Donald Trump during the hearing, she said he can't say anything and get away with it. And she put it even more succinctly and more acutely. She said, Judge Chutkin, to John Lauro, the lawyer for Donald Trump, in what world, in what case that you're aware of, could the defendant call the prosecutor a thug and remain out on bail and remain on the streets? Tell me which case that is. I am not aware of it. And then, of course, she gave the very famous quote that is repeated in the brief by the
Department of Justice, will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest. That saying is what fancy people like to reference when explaining stochastic terrorism. The Mad King saying, will somebody not deal with this guy for me? And then he gets killed. The guy. The priest. Bunch of knights kill him. King never gave the order. We have been past the point of patience for a long time, Donald Trump. We should have been preparing for this guy. All of the orders should have revoking of his liberty. He's been given right now, Trump's ability to walk amongst us is not a right. It is a privilege. It's a privilege that's been given to him by the court as an act of mercy. He does not deserve that mercy. He's made that abundantly clear. He has no respect for the court because he does not respect you or me. He ought to be taught respect. And he will only ever respect people that make him do things. That's the sort of person he is. He doesn't respect decency. He does not respect art. He only respects force. Use it on him. Put him into his cell. Make him sleep on a cot. And if you start to feel bad for the 78-year-old man, just remember this is the same guy that tried to get 5 innocent kids executed because they were black in New York, the Central Park 5. Accused of something they did not do. Trump wanted them killed for something they did not do. Don't feel bad for him. He does not respect you. He does not respect the court. There are plenty of people that show up before the court that think like this and behave like this, and you rarely hear about it because they are normally dealt with pretty efficiently. Jack Smith has now made the very bold suggestion to the court that they treat Trump like they would anybody else. Good.